Long ago, in the sun-drenched heart of the African savanna, where the winds carried tales of gods and men alike, lived a cunning weaver of schemes named Kwaku Ananse. Though small in stature, his wit was sharper than a lion's fang, and his curiosity, it was boundless. One fateful day, Ananse stumbled upon an ancient calabash, buried deep beneath the roots of a sacred baobab tree. Its surface was worn smooth by time, etched with symbols no mortal tongue could read. The air around it shimmered, heavy with an otherworldly hum. This was no ordinary vessel. When he opened it, a brilliant light burst forth, and with it, whispers, words from long-forgotten times. It was the wisdom of the ancestors, every truth, every secret, lost to humanity, sealed away for eternity. Until now. Ananse's heart raced as he realized what he held. It wasn't just wisdom, it was power. Knowledge to mend broken lands, to heal the sick, to grow crops in deserts. But even a man as clever as Ananse knew that power unchecked could turn to ruin. What to do? Hoard it for himself and rule over the savanna? No, that wasn't his way. Wisdom, he thought, is a fire meant to be shared, not hidden under a pot. And so, Ananse made a bold decision. He would choose one person from every village to receive a piece of this wisdom. And so it began. From village to village, Ananse traveled with his enchanted calabash, carefully selecting those who were worthy. A healer in one village, an elder in another. With each encounter, he'd reach into the calabash and pull out a fragment of wisdom, handing it over with a solemn warning. Use it well, for wisdom without thought can be more dangerous than ignorance. At first, the results were astonishing. Villages prospered. The healer cured diseases once thought incurable. The elder devised irrigation systems that turned barren land into lush fields. It seemed Ananse's gift was a blessing beyond measure. But the cracks began to show. In one village, a young warrior used his wisdom to forge weapons that no enemy could withstand. Instead of peace, it brought war. In another, a merchant exploited his newfound knowledge to amass great riches, while his people starved. The calabash was not just a gift, it was a test. As chaos brewed, Ananse began to notice something else. Each piece of wisdom he shared left behind a faint glow in the calabash. A pattern, a design slowly revealing itself. One night, beneath the watchful eyes of the stars, he pieced it together. A hidden spell. One so powerful, it could either heal the land forever or destroy it. Ananse's pulse quickened. Could it be that he had unknowingly set in motion events far beyond his control? Before he could act, news reached him of a shadow moving across the savanna. A shaman, bitter and vengeful, was hunting the pieces of wisdom, tearing through villages to reclaim them. Where Ananse gave freely, this man sought to take, and his purpose was far from noble. Ananse stood at a crossroads. Should he retreat to protect the calabash and the spell it carried, or should he face the storm head-on, knowing full well that the wrong move could doom them all? His choice would determine the fate of the savanna and beyond. The savanna fell into a hushed stillness, like the world itself was holding its breath. Kwaku Ananse stood atop a rocky outcrop, the ancient calabash clutched tightly in his hands. Below, he could see the smoke curling from distant villages, evidence of the shaman's ruthless pursuit. Ananse's heart was heavy. The calabash had been a gift, but in the wrong hands, it could become a curse. He whispered to the wind, "O ancestors, guide me now, for the path is dark and my wit may not be enough." The wind, as if answering, carried the faint cries of the people. They were cries of despair, fear, and anger, and they spurred Ananse into action. He knew he had to protect the calabash and its wisdom, but more than that, he had to stop the shaman before the fragments were misused. Ananse began his journey, weaving through the savanna like a shadow, revisiting the villages where he had shared pieces of wisdom. In each one, he found a different story. Some villages had flourished, learning to use their gifts with care. Others lay in ruin, the people consumed by greed or fear of the shaman's wrath. At each stop, Ananse asked the same question: will you give back the wisdom for the greater good? Some handed it over willingly, their faces lined with regret. Others refused, clutching their fragments like lifelines. Ananse didn't argue. He understood that trust, once broken, is not easily restored. But the shaman was relentless. He moved faster than Ananse, sowing fear wherever he went. It was said he carried a staff carved from the bones of his enemies, and with each village he visited, he grew stronger. He, too, had discovered the truth about the Calabash. The fragments of wisdom were pieces of a greater spell, and he intended to wield it, not to heal, but to bend the world to his will. Ananse realized he could not outpace the shaman forever. He needed a plan. One night, beneath the light of a crescent moon, Ananse gathered the remaining pieces he had collected. He studied the glowing fragments and the pattern they formed. The spell was almost complete, but one piece was missing, the very last one he had given away. It was in the hands of a young girl named Amara, from a village nestled at the edge of the great river. Amara had been different. While others sought power or riches, she had asked for wisdom, to protect her people from drought and famine. Her village was thriving, untouched by the shaman's chaos. But that safety would not last. Ananse raced to Amara's village, his breath ragged, his legs weary. When he arrived, he found her standing at the riverbank, the fragment of wisdom glowing softly in her hands. "You've come for this," she said, holding it out to him. Her voice was calm, her eyes steady. Ananse hesitated. "It's not so simple, child. That fragment holds the power to save us or destroy us. But it's not mine to take. What do you want to do?" Amara looked at the water, her reflection rippling in the current. "I've seen what happens when people use wisdom without care. My village is safe because we've worked together, not because of this." She placed the fragment in his hands. "If you can make things right, do it." Before Ananse could respond, a cold wind swept through the village. The shaman had arrived. He emerged from the shadows, his staff crackling with dark energy. His eyes burned like coals and his voice was a low growl. "Hand over the Calabash, Ananse, or watch this village burn." The people of the village gathered behind Amara, their fear palpable. Ananse stepped forward, clutching the Calabash tightly. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," he said. "This spell isn't just power, it's responsibility. If you complete it without balance, you'll destroy everything." The shaman sneered. "Spare me your riddles, spider. Wisdom belongs to those strong enough to take it." The ground trembled as the shaman raised his staff, drawing power from the fragments he had already collected. Ananse knew he had only one chance. He reached into the Calabash, pulling out the fragments and arranging them in the air. They floated, glowing brighter as they aligned into the shape of a golden web. The shaman lunged, but Ananse was faster. He spoke the spell, his voice steady and resolute. The web of light expanded, enveloping the village. The shaman screamed as the fragments of wisdom were torn from his grasp, dissolving into the web. When the light faded, the shaman was gone, and the Calabash lay empty in Ananse's hands. The spell had done its work. Ananse turned to the villagers. "The wisdom has returned to the earth, where it belongs, but its lessons remain in your hearts. Use them wisely." Amara stepped forward. "What happens now?" Ananse smiled, though his eyes were tired. "Now, we rebuild. Together." And so Kwaku Ananse's tale reminds us of the power of wisdom and the responsibility it carries. In our own lives, may we seek knowledge not for selfish gain, but for the good of all. If this story moved you, share it with someone who values wisdom. Let's pass on the light, one story at a time.